Good afternoon and welcome to Edgewater Health Mind, Body, and Spirit Wellness Program. I am LaTanya Woodson, the Director of Community Health Education right here at Edgewater Health. We are continuing our journey to wellness and we are excited about this afternoon's conversation. Before we begin our discussion, I want to thank each and every one of you that have stopped me in the community, have stopped me at the restaurants, have stopped me at when we're at our special events and just in the community in general, just to let me know that the Mind, Body, and Spirit program is making a positive impact, not only for you, but also for people that you know and in your family. And we're so happy that we have the opportunity to engage and bring these discussions to you on a monthly basis. As you know, June is designated as Men's Month, and what better way to recognize men than to talk about today's topic, men leading men to better health. We're excited about today's presentation and looking forward to a powerful discussion. And again, we want to thank our social media audience for your engagement. But you know what I always say, it's better to be in the house. And we have some men here. They have come in full force. They have come to engage. And I want us to give the men a hand. Thank you all for coming. Now, according to reports, men are more prone to engage in risky behaviors that lead to higher rates of injury and disease due to self-care neglect. This afternoon, we're going to hear information that will encourage men to normalize self-care and support other men in doing so as well. So before I go any further, I would like to introduce our featured speaker for this afternoon. Originally a native of Ghana, Dr. Leon is an ordained and licensed minister holding credentials from the National Baptist Convention of USA, the Church of God, and the Disciples of Christ. He is currently senior pastor for Heritage Community Christian Fellowship located in Maryville, Indiana. Dr. Leon has been a preacher, teacher, licensed mental health counselor, licensed clinical addictions counselor, and motivational speaker for the past 30 years. Currently, Dr. Leon is the clinical director of Cybus Counseling Center, LLC, located here in Gary, where he practices in the field of mental health. Please help me welcome to the podium, Dr. Benjamin Leon.
Hotep.
Hotep.
I come in peace and I greet you in peace. I want to say a word of thanks to this august institution, Edgewater Systems, and in my being here, else could always be found. But when people take the time to include me, I am grateful. The subject that I'm asked to talk with you about, and I hope you find it as interesting as I do, asks the question, why is it that men neglect their self-care in such a way that it translates in health problems for us? And this question, or this conversation, is grounded in the whole concept of the mind, body, and soul. Well, I want you to know, first of all, mind, body, and soul, that whole concept is nothing new. It is as old as the creation of the world and the creation of persons. We are created as beings that are tripartite, and we should understand ourselves as tripartite beings as well. What I'd like to do is to clarify my own assumptions so that you can know what underlies or underpins the way I think and the manner of my speech. My assumptions begin with a commitment of faith. I believe that God exists, and God exists for us. I believe that God is the divine creator, and He created persons, both male and female, as image bearers of Himself. And the definition of men should begin with an understanding that all men everywhere are image bearers of the divine God. And if you understand yourself as an image bearer of God, you will know that everything about you is connected to everything, is connected to everything else. So your mind is connected to your body, and your body is connected to your... Our body is not over here, and our mind over here, and these two are disjuncted. Our spirit is not over here, and our body over here, and these two are disjuncted. Community of selves. Are you working with me? Let me pause to say something. If I say something and you don't understand it, interrupt me. I promise you I wouldn't lose my way, or I wouldn't lose my thought. Okay? I can chew gum and mark time at 7 to 7. So I promise you I'll be okay. But I don't want to say something and you don't understand and you didn't ask about it. That accomplishes nothing. And I'm not here to prove a point or to put myself in show. I prove enough points at home with my children. So I got props at home, okay? So please interrupt me and ask about what you want to know. Because of these assumptions, I can talk with you about God. I can talk with you about the image of God. And I can talk with you about the human personhood or the human selfhood as a community, intrapersonally, and as part of a larger collective, the community of the world. You might not have thought about this seriously, but COVID caused us to recognize that your presence in the world has direct consequence for the health and the presence of somebody else. If we didn't learn anything from COVID-19, we learned that if you pass near me and you're carrying around a bug and you cough or you sneeze, it can affect me. And if you look at that as a metaphor for how community operates, you can look at yourself metaphorically. That if something is wrong with you physically, it affects how you feel. And if something affects how you feel, it affects your spirit, your sense of somebodiness. Are you still working with me?
Yes.
If you look at that concept of self from a metaphorical standpoint, you can recognize the connectivity that I'm talking about. What I'm doing is laying the foundation then for us to talk about mind, body, and soul, and how various aspects of ourself affects our health. What I want you to get out of this when I leave here today are a couple of things. Here is what I want you to achieve. I want you to know that when you leave here, you have a commitment to take care of your whole self. That as a man or as a person, you must leave here with a commitment to take care of your whole self. Not just of your body, but of your emotions and especially of your spirit. That's one of the things I want to achieve by this conversation. That it is not optional. One of the reasons why men in particular, I'm finding it difficult to stand here because I like to move. I think human beings are created for motion. And if you sit down one place long enough, you're going to hurt. One of the reasons why men define themselves in the way they do is because we have bought into the idea that men should not recognize themselves as vulnerable. Women are the ones who are supposed to go to the doctor. We are supposed to be machismo. We are supposed to be strong. You know what is interesting to me? When clients come to see me, on one of my assessments, I ask the question, it's a question dealing with health. How often have you seen the doctor in the past 6 months? Invariably, almost every female that comes to see me sees her doctor between 4 to 6 times. Men see their doctor none to 1 time. Seeing the doctor 1 time in 6 months is a stretch for most men. And that's because we have bought into a definition of self that if you admit that you have a problem, if you confess that you're sick, you're somehow weak. And men are taught that they're not supposed to demonstrate weakness. So one way of proving that you're strong is not to go see the doctor. Hogwash, nonsense, foolishness. Okay? Can I tell you that it is God who created the possibility of medicine, that He spoke into existence. The sciences that are present in our world that make it possible for our bodies to get care. There would be no science had not God spoken. So, please understand there is no radical bifurcation between medicine and spirituality, between faith and religion. And whoever sold you that bag of goods sold you some bad stuff. That is the kind of stuff that will get you killed. Well, what does that mean then? It means that we have to rethink what it means for us to be male in a world like this. And we have to do it quickly. You don't have a lot of time to rethink how you define yourself. COVID ought to tell you that. That we have to rethink how we define ourselves as men quickly. that it is okay to be nurturing, to be vulnerable, to cry, and to go see the doctor. A little bit about image bearers, bearing the image of the divine God. I told you to begin with, I believe in the existence of God. And when the bio sketch was read, it ought to have told you that I pastor. I'm a trained liberation theologian by the University of Chicago and Chicago Theological Seminary. I don't have any apology for being Christian and for being godly or for being godlike. So I want to talk to you a little bit about being an image bearer as a man. If you read the story in the Genesis account, when God created the man, he put him in the garden, and the scripture says to keep it and to tend it. There is no evidence in the text that God took him to a school to teach him agriculture or animal husbandry. Men are created to work. That's why God put him in the garden, to keep it and to tend it, to work. And men who do not work diminishes themselves and diminish all men equally. Because men are created for work and to work. The second thing I want you to know about being an image bearer is this. There is nothing in the text that says God took the man to school and teach him how to cultivate plants and how to tend animals. God put the man in an environment that he had never been in before. He had never seen before and never known before. And God did that because part of what it means to be an image bearer is the capacity to create a response to the new, to the uncertain, to the unpredictable, to the novel, to the foreign, to the strange. Men are created with the capacity to create a response to the unknown, to the foreign. Men are not created to complain about what they don't know. Men are created to forge a response into the unknown. That is what it means to be an image bearer. An image bearer creates a response to the uncertain, to the unknown, to the unpredictable, to the foreign, to the strange, to the unusual. The concept of mind, body, and soul as the basis for understanding our health is therefore the gift of the divine to us. Because we are tripartite, come on in, we have the ability to appeal to various aspects of ourselves for self-development and for self-improvement and for self-care. For example, if you have a physical problem, not only can you go to the doctor, but you can pray. Oh, this is so This is so terrible. I am scaring you, I know. I shouldn't do this to you. If you have an emotional problem, you feel sad or depressed, not only can you go visit a therapist, but you can pray. If you read the 42nd Psalm of David, David raises the question, why art thou cast down, O my soul? And why art thou disquieted within me? Hope thou in God, for I shall yet trust him, who is the light of my countenance and my God. What is the casting down of the soul but depression? What is the casting down of the soul but depression? David was crying out to God from a place of his own depression and from the bowels of his struggle. He heard within himself the reminder to hope in God. You think prayer is just a pastime, an add-on to life, a thing that you do when you don't have anything else to do? Prayer is the key that ties together our various selves as a community of self and ties together our various persons as a community of persons. You look at me strangely. Let me give you an illustration about something. Sometimes I'm amused by people who tell me that they're atheists, that they don't believe in God and God doesn't exist. David called such a person a fool. But I am not that bold. But I'll tell you this, you can't say anything about yourself without calling the name of God. You can't even call yourself a fool without calling God's name.
Unknown caller.
Because God's name is I am. I am that I am. You can't say a single thing about yourself without acknowledging. Uh-oh. You got to bear with me, you know, I'm old. And I didn't grow up with a telephone. I saw a telephone the first time in 1972. I saw a vending machine the first time in 72. I didn't even know where to put the money. So you got to pardon me if I mess up with the phone. I forget it at home. I forget it in the car. I forget it in the office. I am not attached to it. And you ought to know that the algorithms that run these things are addictive and highly addictive. And most of you would never admit this, but you are already addicted to this technology. You know, I'm the kind of person people ask to speak once because, you know, I talk my mind. They ask me to speak one time, they don't have to. But the point I was making that I'm about to open this up for conversation is about the mind-body concept and how these various aspects connect in such a way that we can facilitate our own care intrapersonally. And my point to you just now was, before rudely interrupted by this piece of technology, my point was that if you are hurting physically, you can pray. Because prayer connects you to something greater than yourself. Are you working with me?
Yes.
Prayer connects you with a reality that is beyond rationality, beyond intellect.
Belief is the gift that we have that helps us to interface with realities that exceed our intellect, our rationality, and our imagination. You can't intellectualize yourself to healing. If healing were merely a scientific reality, they wouldn't have chaplains in the hospital, because most chaplains know nothing about medicine. They are there to pray. You ought to take yourself seriously and take the gift of mind, body, and soul much more seriously than you do. And especially for men, you live longer and you live much more healthy. Let me give you a statistic. Among the Amish, there are a bunch of religious people that we like to laugh at. There are not certain diseases present. And you know why? Precisely because they are religious folk. Among the Jehovah's Witnesses, there is a very low percentage of cardiac problems. The science has already established that people who go to church are much less depressed, are much happier, live longer. Well, I go to church. I plan to live a long time. I'm 77 this year and feel good about it. And God and I have an arrangement that we will be here when I'm 127. Yes. Yes. I mean, if I go to live to 999, 127 is just a mere portion. My final comment, and then I'd like to open this up for some conversation, is this. And it has to do with listening. You have been listening to me. There are two ways in which people listen, basically. One is to listen to hear. And you listen to hear when you attend and internalize the content of a communication process. Some people listen to speak. They tolerate what you have to say long enough for you to get through it. And then they say something that is totally disconnected to what you were talking about. Have you ever had an experience like that?
Yes.
Before I turn this conversation over to you, it is my prayer that you were listening to hear.
Yes.
And that you heard something that we can engage in together that can make this experience dynamic and beneficial for you. Now, do you have some questions?
Let's first give Dr. Leon a hand. Thank you. Don't go anywhere because I know there's questions, but I have a question and I have something that I would like to add. And you mentioned through your presentation, mind, body, and soul.
Yeah.
Soul is just spirit. It's your spirit. It's mind, body, and spirit. Mm-hmm. And when you look into that, it's your faith and what you personally believe to get you through those times, as you what you say, as far as depression or stress or when you're not feeling well. And I can remember my father, and he's no longer with us. Men, especially back in the day, they had to be strong, or felt they had to be strong for the family, for their spouse. But what were you what strategies could you give us to help men normalize self-care?
Excellent question. Excellent.
And if you can
Yes.
speak where we can all.
Excellent question. And the question is strategies for normalizing self-care. Let me translate that. I would translate that as practices that men cultivate on an ongoing basis that reminds them that they're vulnerable. Are you following me? The first one is to understand that you are vulnerable and that you live in a body which is going to age and deteriorate. And with that aging and deterioration, it will need care. That's the very first strategy. The first strategy is to have a right understanding of who you are and what your body is all about. You can't live in denial and be healthy. If you live in a state of denial which says that I don't need regular care, I don't have to go to the doctor, that's bad thinking and a poor strategy. The third thing, find yourself a primary care doctor. In the state of Indiana, it's illegal to have a job and not have a PMP. Find yourself a PMP, or at best, a good nurse or a nurse practitioner. Third thing, make appointments and keep them. Keep your appointments. And if you have an issue with keeping appointments, talk to your wife. Women are good at establishing and maintaining.
Yes.
Yes. Talk to her about it. Have her put it in the calendar and remind you. There's a fifth thing. Men like to feel that they are more responsive to other men. Well, in part that is true. Talk to other men about it. Talk to your brother. Talk to your son. Talk to your uncle. Man, did you have your health check for this year? Make this a part of the community dialogue. That's an important strategy. It is ujima. It is collective endeavor. It says that when we stand together, we stand stronger. So if you have the insight, then share that insight with somebody else so that they can be healthy and strong as well.
And you brought up a good point, Dr. Leon, because women do not have a problem sharing when we're not feeling well. As a matter of fact, we'll get on the phone or we'll say something and say, I'm having this issue. Why is it that men is having issues or having difficulty having those conversations when it's just so important?
Well, you're not going to want to hear this.
We want to hear it. I need to hear this because I have sons, I have a husband, grandchildren, my grandsons. I want to know how we can, as you say, break through that barrier and help
Most
them.
men have an ego bigger than this building.
Man.
You understand? And it gets in the way of everything. Most men stumble over their feet because their ego is in the way. They lack the humility to admit the need for help and to ask for help. Have you ever traveled with a brother, he's lost on the highway as all get out? He don't have a clue where he's going, and he would argue with you and tell you that he's not lost? This is a problem, and part of it grows out of how we have been socialized.
Yeah.
If you have kids and they're boys,
Yes.
you teach them from very young it's okay to ask for help, you hear? And it's okay to admit when you're hurt.
Are there any questions? 'Cause I don't want to monopolize this time. or be the only person speaking because I can ask away. So what's another question? Please stand
Yes,
up
sir.
and have your question.
Yes, thank you. First, thank you, Dr. Leon. Thank you very, very much. Thank you for all you do. And I would like to first, in all transparency, state that I am a person I live with and I am in recovery with a severe mental illness. I actually live with schizoaffective disorder and polysubstance abuse issues. And the question that I would like to bring forth to you, as you are a licensed clinical addictions counselor and licensed mental health counselor, thank you again. The question is concerning serious emotional disturbances. Can they also be indicator or a precipitator of the development of a severe mental illness?
Well, certainly. Mental illness is a lot of things. And it's sourced in a lot of places. It's caused by a lot of things. If you're not sure that you have a problem, talk to somebody that can help you tease it out. Don't play Russian roulette with your life. And don't think you know. Because some things, you don't have the luxury of being wrong. While you are trying to get past your inhibitions and your ego, the situation is getting worse. So you deal with it now, deal with it quickly when it surfaces. Even if you're not sure that it might lead to something worse, rule it out. Rule it out by getting in contact with somebody that can help you to do so. Okay? It is better to find the help you need and be surprised that you're okay than think you know what's going on and wake up in a strange country.
Thank you very much.
Another question, please. Don't be shy, you all. Another question.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Dr.
Good afternoon
Leon.
to you,
Thank
sir.
for your presentation. It's good seeing you again.
Thank you.
I'm Roosevelt Haywood III.
Yes.
I've been in your company a few times before.
Yes.
This is a question for you. How well do you think black men and women are relating to each other?
Are relating.
Right, and I say this from the business standpoint. I've been fortunate to be in business for 40 years now, and I know the system is not geared toward minorities, and sometimes they will play that against each other. For instance, in terms of diversity, generally women, they really search for women to be uplifted, and a lot of times the brothers are left behind, and that can cause schism. So,
Yes.
how well or how better can black men and women relate to each
Now, Roosevelt, you know the question you raised there is a question that can get me in trouble, get you in trouble, get all of us.
other? But it's all about the truth.
But it's, that's
So
what we're here for. Yes.
you plan to edit this thing.
We were live. This is live on social media platforms. So yes.
Well, it's a good question. It's a good question because I told you that everything is connected to everything is connected to everything else. And the health of men, how men understand themselves, how they treat themselves, affects relationships, affects interpersonal relationships. How resources are distributed in our communities between men and women affects relationships. How the legal system handles the problems between men and women disproportionately, as far as black men are concerned, affects relationships. The social media information that is placed out there that uses language to pit
men, especially black men against women, and black women against black men, affect the way we live with each other, affect the way we treat ourselves and our children. So we live in a rather complex social climate. And the answer to your question is not very easy, but I would tell you this. Number one, the more aware you become and the more conscious you are about the real issues that are going on around you, the better prepared you are to negotiate healthy relationships between black men and black women. If you don't educate yourself, and if you don't raise your consciousness so that you are aware of the games, the social games that are being played, the language games that are being played, how social media is used, the language of social media, if you don't educate yourself, raise your consciousness, they're going to impact your relationships adversely. But the more you're informed, the better informed you become, the better we are able to have healthy relationships. One last comment about relationships. Good relationships are grounded in mutual self-respect.
Yes.
Yes.
They're grounded in a genuine sense of love and appreciation. And they are grounded in a sense of honor. Now, I told you when I started this conversation that I am a preacher. I'm a theologian. When God created the man and the woman, and God brought her to him, it was the first time she met him. It was the first time he met her. And the two of them left home together. They left together because God had acted graciously towards them. They didn't do the do because they didn't meet each other before. They had no history of sexual relationships. They didn't pay any dowry. They left together because God had acted graciously towards them. And in response to what God did, the text says they left together. The first verse of the 3rd chapter of Genesis says this. Now the serpent, which was most subtle of the creatures God created, said to the woman. The stranger showed up. And by the time the stranger showed up, this man stood there and allowed a stranger to talk to his wife and did nothing and said nothing. This man stood there and allowed a stranger to defame his God and said nothing. Did God say? He said nothing. He did nothing. What would give the woman the audacity to talk to a stranger naked in the presence of her husband? Why didn't she say to the stranger, man, these questions you're asking me, God didn't tell me about it. He told my husband, he's right there, why don't you ask him? She presumed to speak to the stranger naked in the presence of her husband. Now all that tells you is that something broke down in the relationship before the stranger showed up. And let me tell you what it is. You see, before the stranger showed up, women are created to be appreciated. You asked me the question about relationships. Women are created to be appreciated. And an unappreciated woman will talk to a stranger naked in your presence. Especially if she's black. Because women are created to be appreciated. Or she would be at home and she would go down to the river and do her hair with the clay and put the flowers in it. And she would cook the porridge and the soup, and he would come home and behave as though he's entitled to it. He wouldn't take the time to appreciate, oh, thank you, honey, you are so good to, he wouldn't take the time to do it. And she felt unappreciated. And by the time the stranger showed up, she was ready to do it on her own. Speak for herself, act for herself, talk for herself, naked, because she felt unappreciated. Why is it that this man was quiet in the face of the stranger? I'll tell you. Men are created to be honored. Men are created to be honored. They are created to be the head of their women and the head of their house. So he would come home from the field with the hunt, and she would stand at the door, and she wouldn't be, oh honey, my great hunter, my husband, you have brought the hunt of the day. Come, I have ran a bath for you. Come, I have made porridge for you. No. She would look at him as though she is deserving of everything. After all, you got me here. You're supposed to bring me something to eat. And after a while, the man felt dishonored. And men who are dishonored have feet of clay. They would stand silent in the face of a stranger while they talk to your wife naked. Men who are honored are strong. Men that are dishonored have feet of clay. I am married to a girl. When we go to the restaurant, I take her order. And when the waiter comes, I give the waiter my wife's order. And every now and then the waiter would turn to Joyce and says, and ma'am, what are you going to have? And she would say to the waiter, oh, I am Joyce, and this is my husband, and he's already told you what I'm going to have, and that's what I'm going to have. And I sit there feel like the king of Bayonne.
Okay, so I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So in today's society, do you really think that women, we have come a long way as far as, and I understand what you're saying, that's biblical, but what about today?
What about today?
Okay.
What about today?
The 21st century, the generation I'm in, the let's say
today's woman,
yes.
we are head of our own, organizations, and
Yes.
and many times you have women taking care of the home.
Yes.
We have to be that strong person because many times, you're being honest, right? The men aren't there. So,
First of all, being strong does not rule out respect.
and that's true.
Being strong does not rule out being sensitive and aware. Being strong requires that you practice sensitivity. It is only the strong that can choose to be weak in the interest of the weak so that they can become strong. So,
Say that again, Doc. Say that one more time.
it is only the strong who can choose to be weak in the interest of the weak so that they can become strong. So if a woman is strong, she has a responsibility to use that strength respectfully and kindly and gently to empower the man in her life or around her to be strong. That's exactly why relationships get messed up. Because we use our strength and our talents to separate something rather than to bring it together. It is because I am my children's father, I don't mistreat them.
Let's give Dr. Leon. Lots of information. It was packed with powerful information. before we let him leave or allow him to leave, is there anyone else that would have any other questions, or would you have any comments? It was a lot to take in, but having these discussions of mind, body, and spirit, if you could agree with me, is so beneficial. And it's so beneficial to what Dr. Leon indicated, to the soul. Is there any other questions?
Actually, we have one.
Yes.
sir.
How you doing, Dr. Leon? Thanks everybody for the comments. And the new family and youth services director. I had a question in regards to how we could better be able to, since all three things, mind, body, and spirit, are intersectionalized, I'd like to know how we can do a better job of decreasing the division in the three. Because a lot of times when men go to the doctor for a medical issue, and the doctor becomes aware that there is an emotional issue, a lot of times that there isn't a warm handoff, if you will, in regards to being able to see that the whole person is being served. So is there a way that we can close those divisions?
Yes.
Those services not be so siloed?
Yes. Good question. Good question. Excellent question. You remember I talked about awareness? Awareness also includes being conscious of what your needs are, being conscious of your right to ask that your needs be addressed. If you go to see a doctor and you're feeling some kind of way, tell him, Doc, I know you're ready to give me this injection, but I just want you to know right now this is how I feel. Hold him accountable to provide for you quality care. You don't feel scared or feel terrified and sit there playing macho when all the time you need comfort. So becoming aware means also learning how to self-advocate, how to speak up for yourself and to do so respectfully and to do so honestly. Women just cry. They just start crying and the doctor says, oh honey, what's the matter with you?
Some women just cry.
Yeah.
Some
I want to get it. Yes.
He's 77 for sure.
But my point is you have to self-advocate. You have your consciousness level has to get to the place where you know you have the right to certain types of care. Ask for it. Don't spend your money for people to mistreat you. Do not spend your money for people to mistreat you. Why do you spend your money with a doctor who doesn't take the time to listen to you? Why buy into that? Anyway.
Absolutely correct.
Well, thank you again. There's one thing that I will say that I truly believe in is the power of communication. Men taking care of the women in their lives and the woman taking care of the men in their lives. And when we do that, we are taking care of one another.
Yes.
So when there's something that we see in our husbands, in our sons, in our grandchildren, even our co-workers, we can come to that man to say, you know what, I see, that you're not as energetic, or you may not have a smile on your face, or you look like sluggish. Let's encourage one another to take a moment and take care of take care of self.
Mm-hmm.
The mind, the body, and the spirit. I want to thank each of you for coming. I want to thank our social platform, our social media audience for engagement. But also, before we end, I want to thank Mr. Roosevelt Haywood for the refreshments and for your continued support. Thank you so much. Mr. Roosevelt Haywood is the CEO and president of Haywood and Fleming Associates.
Amen.
And if it's not Mr. Haywood, it's Miss Leslie coming over to support our events. And I truly, truly, truly want to thank you. The men's event was so special to me because I know how hard it is for men to engage. So your support and the support of the community, and always the support of our CEO and leader, Dr. Danita Johnson. Let's give her a hand. I truly support, appreciate the support and the encouragement that Dr. Johnson gives, because the mind, body, and spirit, when I spoke to her, she said, you know what, LaTanya, go ahead, let's do it. It's needed, and I am so appreciative to that. So thank you all again. If you want to know more about Edgewater Health services and programs, be sure to visit our website at edgewaterhealth.org. And if you have questions for me, email me at lwoodson@edgewaterhealth.org. This ends our session for today. Wouldn't you agree that it was powerful, it was impactful, and Dr. Leon will be here if you have any questions. And remember, Edgewater Health takes care of the what? The whole person.
Yes.
Thank you, and we'll see you next month.